Over the past 15 games, the Clippers have a record of 13-2. And if you can't tell, I am very surprised by this, especially because about a couple months ago, I talked about the Clippers right after the James Harden trade. And to start things off, they had a 6-game losing streak, and it seemed like this team was destined to fail. However, just a couple months later, the Clippers have saved themselves, and they're the hottest team in basketball right now. But how did they go from failing with James Harden to now thriving with him? Well, boys, we got to talk about it. First, I want to talk about James Harden. James Harden has been very interesting on the Clippers. When joining the Clippers, I said there was no way that Harden was going to be Houston James Harden or any other version of him himself. I was hoping he was going to be like Philly James Harden, but yet he's a different version we haven't really seen. For one, James Harden doesn't need a lot of touches on this team to be effective. And I mean, that does make sense. With guys like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, you have a lot of talent around you. Not to mention, James Harden's shooting has improved a lot. In fact, currently at the time recording this video, he's shooting about 44% from three, which is very different because James Harden isn't necessarily known as a great three-point shooter. Usually a lot of scorers in the NBA can make threes, but they're not like the best at it. But James Harden is shooting really well from three. I honestly think a lot of people, including myself, were just waiting for James Harden to kind of fail right when he got to Los Angeles. But I'm not gonna lie, he has definitely accepted his role and he's starting to mesh with the team. I mean, you gotta understand, this is a completely different version of James Harden. Like when a lot of star or superstar players go to different teams, they can usually play the same. Kevin Durant can play the same in Brooklyn that he does in Phoenix for the most part. However, James Harden is not the same guy that he was on his previous team, and he kind of had to adjust. And if we're looking at the numbers, if we're looking at the way the Clippers are playing, he has definitely adjusted to this role a lot better than I thought. And honestly, that's a good thing. I think this is a version of James Harden that can win a championship with the Clippers. And it's the same thing that I said in Philly. Harden doesn't have to score 30 to 40 points, but you never know. There could be a night where he goes off. Like, I think he had a game against the Pacers a while back where he had like 35 points randomly. Harden is not someone that is going to usually get you 35 points now, but he can have those flashback games every now and then. And speaking of accepting roles, I need to actually give my praise to Russell Westbrook. In my video about the Clippers, I made a comment where I said that either Harden or Westbrook was going to have to come off the bench. In my opinion, it made sense for Harden to come off the bench. Westbrook had earned his status on that team as someone that was willing to do anything, a hard worker, and a dominant player. However, when the team was struggling, Westbrook said, yo, I will come off the bench. And honestly, that is a very respectable thing. I've noticed that a lot of people try to make this narrative about Westbrook that, oh, he's selfish, oh, he's a cancer to every team he goes to. But I've only heard good things about Westbrook from his teammates and people that have played with him or been in the same organization as him. Westbrook is one of the most selfless players in the NBA, and no matter what the media tells you, this guy just wants to win, and it is so fucking respectable. I remember people used to tell me that Westbrook was just someone that was a ball hog, that was a terrible teammate, but I disagree. He's just somebody that wants to win. He's a hard worker, and him doing this for the Clippers is something that a lot of star players would not do. I mean, this is a former MVP. This is one of the most explosive players of all time. Yet he said, yo, I will take a back seat, and that's very respectable. Also, statistically, 6.5 rebounds, 4.7 assists, 1 steal per game in only 23 minutes. That's not too bad. Westbrook is getting limited time, but he's still doing well with the limited time that he has. Actually, is 23 minutes per game really limited? Look, that's not the point. Look, the point I'm trying to make is that Westbrook is somebody that is going to be very vital to the Clippers' success, even though he's not the best player, he's not the best scorer, he's not the best defender. So yeah, shout out to Westbrook for playing a role that a lot of former MVPs would not play at this stage of their career. Now, of course, the two most important players to this team, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, that is something we really have to talk about because something interesting has happened that I don't think a lot of people expected to transpire. But first, gentlemen, we're on the road to 50,000 subscribers. So of course, if you guys are enjoying the video, if you guys are enjoying what I've been putting out lately, I've been putting in a lot of effort. I've been trying to upload more and yet upload better content overall. Well, leave a like on the video and subscribe. Also, if you have video ideas, put it in the comment section below. If there's a team you want me to talk about, a player, or things overall, I'm interested to hear. Also, a little plug, you might want to follow the podcast channel because we are dropping an episode sometime today. So if you guys are not following the Starting Five, well, subscribe to our channel. Like I said, we're dropping an episode today. It should be live by the time this video drops. All right, with that being said, let's get back to the video. Now, I want to talk about Kawhi Leonard for a sec because earlier in the season, Kawhi Leonard was struggling for a while, and this probably was due to the fact that he had been injured in the playoffs and he was, getting off that injury. But to say the least, I've noticed something else that's been kind of different about Kawhi. Ever since James Harden got to the Clippers, it seems like Kawhi is back to normal, and some could say even better. And I think there's a really good reason for that. When you bring in another offensive weapon, like with a player like James Harden, it leaves more opportunities for other players. I mean, let's just break this down in a very simple way. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, those three players are pretty solid scorers, and that's me saying that in a conservative way. I mean, honestly, how are you going to game plan for this team? Paul George could go off any night, Kawhi Leonard could go off any night. James Harden might not go off for 30 to 40, but he's going to make it a pain in the ass for your defense. Because James Harden is the primary ball handler and he's the one to control the offense, Kawhi Leonard has been able to just relax and do what he does best. And because they now have James Harden, that leaves Kawhi Leonard going back to being able to be a good defender. I've noticed with some star players, when they have to be the whole offense, their defensive production does start to go down. And for Kawhi Leonard's case, while he can still be one of the best scorers on the team, the Clippers defense is now sitting at number 12 in the NBA. Mind you, this is a team's defense that was falling in the rankings earlier on in the year. However, now it seems like they're picking up things, and I mean, they're damn near top 10 in every single category. I genuinely believe that James Harden did a lot for Kawhi Leonard, and a lot of people aren't going to talk about that. I feel like a lot of people had narratives about James Harden and how, he came to LA and was going to tear everything apart. However, I feel like for a lot of the players, even a guy like Ivan Zubac, he's impacting everyone in different ways. Now, I know some people are going to get mad that, oh, you didn't talk about Paul George, but I think everything with Paul George is pretty much a given. We know he's a great scorer. We know he's important to this team. We know that come playoff time, I believe Paul George is going to be the second best scorer on this team, maybe even first. But there's something else that I think we need to talk about, and that's the fact that the Clippers could actually win the championship this year. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. One of my boys, NBA Nerd, he's one of my good friends. He told me and my boys earlier in the year that he thought the Clippers were going to be one of the best teams in the league and they could possibly win the finals. Now, mind you, this was before the James Harden trade. This was right before the season started. And I'm not going to lie, I laughed at him. All my friends laughed at him. We're like, bro, shut the fuck up. You're being stupid. However, I need you guys to understand something. The Western Conference is wide open right now. There are only a few teams that I genuinely believe are going to be the hardest to stop. And now that I say that, I actually think there's one. I think it's Minnesota. I genuinely believe Minnesota is the best team in the West right now. I know people are going to be like, oh, what about the Nuggets? Well, whatever you do, do not look up the Nuggets record versus above 500 teams. Of course, I would love to say the Suns, but we all know that team is kind of in a weird stage right now. So unless they go on like a 10-20 game winning streak, I'm not confident in Phoenix right now. You might want to say the Lakers, which, boy, if you don't. So to say the least, there's only one team that I'm genuinely terrified. However, Minnesota doesn't really have that much experience. So I'm now just editing this and I forgot about OKC, but the same point I made for Minnesota still stands for OKC. All right, back to the video. So is it crazy for me to say I think Los Angeles, a team that has players full of playoff experience, could take over the West? They're one of the hottest teams in basketball right now, and I don't know what is stopping this team from doing well except injuries. So I asked this question: do you guys think that the Clippers could end up making it to the finals? If they keep playing the way they are and chemistry stays the same and Westbrook is doing his thing and James Harden's doing his thing and even guys like Zubac on the bench, if they keep doing their thing, could they possibly win the finals? I think there's a real possibility, but we need to see everyone involved, including Tyronn Lue, who hasn't been the best coach. We need to see everyone involved just play their role, because we're at a point now where I don't even know what's going to happen in the NBA anymore. This shit is just, you know.